Dr. Angela McBrearty of DoctorFlute.com, and today's video is on comparing soldered tone holes with drawn tone holes. So I have in front of me today two professional model Haynes flutes. One has drawn tone holes and the other has soldered tone holes. And if you like either of these flutes, or you're interested in a flute trial, then go to Flute Center of New York and use my code DoctorFlute, DRFLUTE. And with that code, you get an extended flute trial, 10 days versus 7 days. You get an extended warranty. You get 18 months instead of 12 months. You get 10% off of music purchases, and you get free shipping. So use that if you're going to Flute Center of New York and you're trying out flutes or just any of your flute purchases. All right, so this is a drawn tone hole flute. Now, if you're looking here, it's really hard to tell the difference between a drawn tone hole flute and a soldered tone hole flute. I think you can if you look really close. If you have better eyes than mine, you can maybe see that difference. But I think it's hard to tell the difference. But I know this because this is what was written on the page when I got this flute from Flute Center of New York. And the drawn tone holes, here's the deal with drawn tone holes. So while the tube is being made and it's hot, they draw out these tone holes. So from the tube, they bring them up out of the metal so that this is what the key is going to sit on top of. And then they roll the little top down so that it's a smooth top for the key to fit on top of and not sharp. And that's what is a drawn tone hole. Are they better or worse? Well, I think that's completely up to you. It depends on what your ear likes to hear. Drawn tone holes, there's a couple things about them that make them good or not good. And one of them is that because they're drawn and rolled, this is what I've read, that sometimes the pads don't sit flush with the top of the tone hole because it's drawn out and not made to be absolutely perfect and then fitted on, and then you know that everything works together with it being drawn out of the metal. Sometimes that is apparently a problem. I would think that with our master craftsmen making flutes, such as these Haynes flutes, that they have an answer to that and can fix that if that is in fact an issue. Then with drawn tone holes, you generally have a brighter tone color. And brighter is not good or bad. It is preference. So if you like the brighter sound, if you like the way that is, then maybe this flute is the one for you. And you don't need soldered tone holes. So that is what the drawn tone holes, that's the shtick about them. That's what makes them drawn. Let me play a little bit so you can hear, and then I'll play some of the soldered and we'll be able to compare them. So I'll play a little bit. I feel like the low register has a bright sound. It's smooth though. It still is a very smooth tone. I feel like that tone is very present. It's very resonant. It's right there in front of you. I like that tone. I don't think it's a bad tone, but it is definitely a brighter sound than perhaps the flute that I normally use. So that's a drawn tone hole flute. Let me put this head joint on the soldered tone hole and let's compare. All right, now I've put that head joint onto the soldered tone hole flute, and I'm moving the head joints back and forth because I want to make sure I compare both of these flutes together. I think they're basically identical. One has offset G. This one obviously has inline G. They both have gold springs, so that is an addition that you can have added to your flute. Well, it has to be made into your flute, but gold springs gives it a little different toe color as well. But both flutes have those gold springs. So soldered tone holes. So what that means is that a craftsman makes the tone hole and then uses solder, so uses some additional metal and solders that tone hole right into the hole that's been made into the tube. So what that does, there's a couple things. So there's a metal that is used, a soldering metal, because that has to be used in order to attach them. And depending on what metal that is, can create a difference in sound because it's going to vibrate differently. It's going to cause a different resonance. So that's one of the reasons why you're going to have a different tone with soldered tone holes than you do with the drawn tone holes. Also, because they're made separately, they can make an exact perfect fitting for this key to fit flush on top of. So they can make it more perfect. I guess it's easier to make that perfect when they are soldered together. Let me give you a couple other reasons why soldered tone holes can be a better fit for you. They can make, because they can make this flush, they can make a tighter seal. And of course, we always need that tighter seal. There is a technique called undercutting that they can use, and that is what makes this be completely flat and tight. So that is one of the reasons why this can be a better fit on the flute. But again, this is going to be up to you in the end. Okay, so let's also talk about what that can give you. Because of the solder, because of the soldered tone holes made separately and put on, this is what they say can be given to you. There's more resonance and more depth of tone. It is slightly less brilliant because of that depth of tone. Intonation can be better, and it says because of that undercutting, they can make that intonation really perfect. Generally, it's a darker sound. The response is better because your pads are flatter. There's a little bit more money involved. It does cost more to have soldered tone holes, and I noticed in the price between these two flutes, even though they come with slightly different head joints, I looked, there's only like $50 difference between the two head joints. So mostly they're the same, and the price was a couple thousand difference, maybe $2,500 difference between the drawn tone holes and the soldered tone hole. The soldered tone holes can give you a more powerful dynamic range and a larger range of colors. So let me play this a little bit and let's see, does it live up to all of that information? Well, right away, I don't know if you can notice, I feel so much more power coming from this instrument than I did with the drawn tone holes. I can definitely hear it. There's power, there's a definite larger sound coming from here. I feel like I can get a really dark edge on this flute. Now let me feel just the response. How does that work? yes, I'm playing around with this a little bit more because it's actually kind of really exciting to play. I think it's gorgeous. For me, this is what appeals to me, this sound. The brighter sound, not quite so much, but I don't think if you like the brighter sound, great, that's the sound for you. But for the way I play, I like the control that I can get from this, and I hear that difference. Are you hearing a difference between these two? Let me go back and play the drawn and then back to the soldered, and we'll see if you can hear the difference a little bit closer together. All right, here is the drawn tone hole again. I definitely hear that brighter sound. I think the response is still okay between the two. I'm not sure I notice a huge difference between the response time. Maybe there is a little bit of a one, but the brightness, it's beautiful. It really booms right out. I can hear it. I feel like I could still control it, and it's still a gorgeous sound. It's just brighter. Let me quick change over to the soldered tone hole. There's definite difference in sound. This is a darker, richer sound. Yeah, and I do like the finger action on this a little bit better. I feel like it's easier to make it clean, and maybe that's because of that perfect seal that this one can get. I feel like the younger me would have liked the brighter sound better, and the older me likes this darker sound better. So it depends on what year I was looking for a flute, whether I would pick the drawn or the soldered. Well, what do you think between these two? If you hear a difference between that soldered tone hole and that drawn tone hole, which one do you like better? And now you know, when you're looking for a flute, what you might want to be asking questions about and what you want to try when you're looking for that perfect flute. Have fun trying flutes.